Okay, for question number 1, I think generally okay. What I want to point out to you is this. You need to know the strength of acids. Okay, so remember if you are using your universal indicator, there's a few colors you need to take note. The use of universal indicator, the few colors you need to take note is red, orange, then yellow. Then the one that is neutral is green. After that, there's another group of colors you need to know is your blue and violet. Okay, I think for green, no problem because you know that this is going to be your neutral solution where the pH equals to 7. Okay, but for red, orange, and yellow, you cannot use it for any chemicals that you like. So do take note, if you are going to be using your red, this is only valid for strong acid. Okay, this is only for strong acid. And the 3 common strong acid you learn is actually your sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, the last one? Nitric acid. Okay, so all these 3 acids are strong acid. So wherever you see them, and they ask you to add a few drops of universal indicator, the color change should be from green to red. Do not use orange and yellow. Orange and yellow is for weak acid. What is it they want to ask?
From green to red.
Yeah. When you're describing the color change, you must always include the original color of the indicator.
Green,
Yeah, it's green. The original color is green. Okay, it's green. Okay? So this one take note. Then so you just put a note there. If you are looking at orange and yellow, this is for weak acid. What's the weak acid you learn? What's the weak acid you learn? What is acetic acid? The only weak acid you need to remember is actually your ethanoic acid or your carboxylic acid, which you learn in your organic chem after the next part of the organic chem series lesson. Organic chem is not tested, but you need to know organic acids are weak. So when you are looking at the 3 acids that you've been looking at for many years, those 3 acids are all strong acid. So if you add your universal indicator, please do not tell them the universal indicator turns orange or yellow because they will mark you wrong. Okay, the strength is not correct. Then for green, I think it's quite straightforward. It's neutral, like what I mentioned earlier. However, for blue and violet, again, you must be able to take note. If you are looking at your group 1 hydroxide, violet is for group 1 metal hydroxide. So all this will be violet. Then for the remaining, most of the colors, right, most of the alkali, they are weak. So for weak alkali, the color is actually blue. So this is for strong alkali. Name me a common alkali that you know is weak. And you have always been coming in contact with this particular chemical name. Potassium is a metal what? Start with A. Yeah. There's a weak alkali that starts with A that you should be very familiar with. Yeah. Aqueous ammonia is a weak alkali. Okay, so just remember, as long as you're given a group 1 metal hydroxide, your color should be violet. If you are given an aqueous ammonia, the color is blue. If you are given any other substances, not knowing whether they are strong or weak alkali, then either you give blue or violet, they'll mark you correct. Okay, but if you are given this particular group, please make sure you know to state the color carefully. Please do not tell them it turns blue or violet. You must give a definite color. Okay, so you cannot give them a choice. These are things you need to take note. The only one with universal indicator is the one that is a bit more tricky because there's a range of color. Your litmus paper, meta orange, all these color are pretty standard because there's a direct color change. Okay? Move on. Okay, if you are looking at the pH value range, then you do take note, you have it inside your summary notes, which is the range for strong acid, which is the range for weak acid, then your weak alkali and strong alkali. Okay, so these are things you need to take note. So coming back to this table, right, I hope now you understand why I've actually written your sulfuric acid as red. So those who actually give me yellow or orange, you are marked wrong for this part. Similarly, for your potassium carbonate, it doesn't fall into the category that I mentioned earlier. So I'm not too sure whether is it strong or weak. So for this particular question, I only know that this is an alkaline solution. So I can put down blue, you can put down violet, they'll give it to you. But if I put down potassium hydroxide, this one must be violet. If I put down aqueous ammonia, this must be blue. Okay, so these are things you need to take note. Alright? Okay, next part. I am surprised the next part, so many of you are not able to answer this as well. When you are given the substances in your table mixed together in solution form, this is the key word. You are looking at substances in aqueous solution form. So the moment you see there is aqueous solution, the first two choices that you have to eliminate is actually your lead 2 carbonate and calcium carbonate because they are insoluble in water. So you are only left with calcium chloride, sulfuric acid, and potassium carbonate. Okay? And what you wanted to form is actually your calcium carbonate. So if you remember your precipitation reaction, when you are given the name of the salt, you are supposed to split them into half. Usually, first part of the name you combine with nitrate because all nitrates are soluble. But look at the 3 chemicals that are left in the table. You're only left with calcium chloride, sulfuric acid, and potassium carbonate. So which is the only one that contains a calcium ion? You're only left with calcium chloride. Right? So this has to be one of the answer. Okay? Then the second part, you need to have a carbonate. And the only option left with the carbonate is potassium carbonate. So these are the 2 answers. Don't come up with your own options because they already stated you are supposed to refer to the table to answer this question. So, therefore, my answer you have to write should be potassium carbonate as well as your calcium chloride. Can? Okay, so these are things you need to take note of. Then if you look at your part 2, right? Part 2, they ask you to write down the 3 processes in order to obtain a pure sample. Okay, so you're looking at a pure sample of your calcium carbonate as a result of the mixing. So the first thing you do, filter. Okay, after you mix your chemicals together, you get your precipitate. The next thing I need you to do is you have to filter. Okay, so step number 1, you filter the resulting mixture. What are you interested in collecting? Do you want the residue or do you want the filtrate? Filtrate. Filtrate is the one that passes through the filter paper or trapped on the filter paper? Trapped on the filter paper, you don't call it the filtrate. You call that the residue. Okay, to collect calcium carbonate as the residue. Okay, so this is step number 1, filter. After filtering, how do you crystallize a solid? It's really in solid what? Crystallization is only on filtrate. Wash. What do you wash with? Okay, wash with small amount of cold distilled water. Okay, usually for precipitate, you can just say wash the residue with a small amount of water. Don't need to be cold. Only for crystallization, you need to mention it's cold. Okay, so wash the residue with cold distilled water. With distilled water. No need the word cold. Anyway, this is not soluble. So you can just say wash with distilled water. After washing, last step, dry. How do you dry it? What do you use to dry it? Evaporated to dryness means you have a solution, you heat to evaporate the dryness. Solid, you cannot heat what? Filter paper. Your steps order all wrong. Dry the solid, or you can say the precipitate, with between sheets of filter paper. Can? Okay, so these are the 3 processes you're looking at: filtering, washing, drying. Okay, so this is your question number 1. Anything you want to ask here? Okay, now I'm going to go on to second question.